Well, let's start off by saying introduction about me. I work with BrightStarr. I'm very passionate about designing, optimizing SharePoint sites. I'm not an expert in any way. I've just been around the block quite a bit, have run into a lot of issues, and have a lot of scars to show for it. So the gist of the session is really to help everybody like you. You know, you have a little bit of design experience, whether it's HTML, CSS, and you might possibly be the only SharePoint consultant or developer, designer, admin within your company. A lot of organizations that I've seen, that I've run into, they don't end up investing into branding their site, into, besides just the logo, besides just changing the theme color, they really don't invest into it. And it has a huge impact into how users use your SharePoint site. So whether it's adoption, governance, or any of those other topics, branding has a huge implication on it. So I want to ask all of you, besides the catchy title, what really brought you here to the session? Anybody?
Pizza?
Besides a pizza, besides a great pizza.
We're upgrading 2010 and we're planning to change our branding.
Okay.
And the person who really knows what that means is a great person, but I wouldn't mind seeing it happen.
Seeing it happen, okay, great. Yeah, you'll definitely get that in this session. We're going to go through branding a site from scratch to making it look not like SharePoint. Anybody else? What are your expectations today? Are you looking at
Well, ninja implies some kind of power over, the situation.
Yeah.
So
definitely,
definitely something that we can always use more of with SharePoint.
Okay, great. You guys are a quiet crowd. Well, throughout the sessions, I'm going to share with you some of the tips that I've found that are that have made my branding project successful. Nielsen Norman Group, they do a lot of ratings, Jacob Nielsen, related to SharePoint projects, as well as intranets in general. And they had a report come out last year saying that 50% of all the intranets in 2009 and 2010 were based off of SharePoint. And they actually shared within that report, I think, 400 plus pages of the secrets to their success. So at the end of the session, besides what I'm doing today, I'm going to share with you those tips as well, so you get a bit more than what you just came for. All right, so we're going to go through what is branding and why should we do it. All right, so can everybody, besides pictures, is there anything else you can tell me besides putting on a logo? What else is branding itself?
Company identity.
Identity, that's correct, yeah.
Template creation and color modifications based on maybe different traditional organizations.
Right, template creation, modification of the styling of it as well. That's correct.
I had a corporate style guide and template that I had to apply within SharePoint.
Exactly. A lot of organizations,
some of that.
Definitely, a lot of organizations already have a brand in place. One example was Heart and Stroke Foundation worked with them as well. They already had a brand guideline in place. They wanted to take their logo, their color theme, apply it to SharePoint, and they had very strict guidelines.
I think a successful brand is one that makes people feel comfortable in circumstances in which they might not otherwise. In other words, it sort of carries you over by giving you a first impression of something that's positive and consistent.
Right.
And in fact, what underlies that may require some effort on your part, but it gets you in, gets you through the door.
Yeah, and sometimes the scariest part is just opening your browser. There's a lot of users out there who can't deal with the fact of dealing with something other than paper. Whether they've been in the business 30 years or 40 years. So, new SharePoint product they're using, now they want it to look as similar to the other applications you're using.
It's the image that you want other people to have about you.
Right. Perception is very, very important. And that's why it's very important to do it successfully. What you don't want to do is you don't want to put lipstick on a pig and just say, here it is, use it, and kind of go through with it.
You actually found a picture of that.
I found it. I did. Yeah. So branding is consistent. There's a lot of different ways of doing it, a lot of different ways of sharing what you know in terms of on an application or a browser, but it has to be consistent. Some will argue that this is consistency because the message is getting across. But if you look at it from this scope, it's different. When you're integrating with your ERP system, your SAP, or any other system, if the look and feel is not the same, you're going to have issues with that as well. So I want to show you this as well. branding is not everything. Yes, it definitely is something at the surface. The look and feel is very, very important. But really, I typically don't always start here. I typically start at the strategy, figure out the user needs, the objectives. Successful projects are, these are the key criteria here. So don't invest purely in branding. Don't invest purely in just your applications and making sure they work properly. Invest in each and every different component of that.
Because your strategy is really going to influence everything else, right?
Exactly. It's a foundation. And that's what I'm trying to get from this point as well, is a lot of companies will say, okay, well, they've come to BrightStarr and said, we just want, you guys do UI, amazing, okay, great. We just want you to do a UI. We look at their solution, we look at what they have, and like, there's a lot of holes here, there's issues. Whether it's custom solutions they've already built, or they're having adoption problems, they're like, maybe we'll just put a new face, a new spin on the site, and people will use it. Not entirely true. All right, so right now there's a couple of you, probably about a dozen or so that have used SharePoint 2010. Not everybody does, so I'll go into this not too quick, but quick enough that we can get to the meat. So I'll get out of the way here. So we're focusing today on web content management. So there's quite a few solutions that are available. There's a status bar that's available in SharePoint 2010. You can actually customize and display custom messages in the status bar, which is right here. You have themes, which you can actually use to implement, have the same master page or the same design, the overall design, but use different themes, maybe either for different departments or for different business applications. And then there's also the server ribbon, which I think is the biggest impact to users. In 2007, I had a slide before where there were 8 different locations you can actually go to do actions. Whether it was a site actions menu, or it was the actions menu, the settings menu, the context menu, everything is now in the ribbon. So if you start building applications now, or you're building it for employees, look at how you can actually leverage that. I think Shai's had a great presentation on customizing the ribbon to actually implement custom solutions, buttons in there, even groups, tabs, for your applications. If you use it correctly, your users will love you. There's tagging, the rating, there are a couple other things as well. And what's near and dear to my heart is accessibility. Making sites very, very accessible. If we all use Internet Explorer. No, okay, maybe Firefox or Google Chrome, but we all use a browser that gives you colors, gives you functionality that we've all learned to love. There's browsers out there, and there's individuals out there who don't use those browsers. So accessibility is very, very important. Microsoft stepped up to plate in terms of with a little bit of massaging to get SharePoint 2010 in line with the WCAG level AA standard. So if you need help with that, or you want to discuss that, I can definitely dive into that for another time.
Quick question.
Yes.
How much testing do you do on other browsers for products that are going outside of company? Do you just sort of have a few key ones, or do you?
So it depends on the organization. Some organizations say, okay, within our environment, we have IE6 and we have Firefox. Well, 2010, no IE6 support, but we'll go ahead and work on IE7 or Firefox or any other browser, right? But it depends on the organization. If you're doing intranet, then you have to find out what are the most popular browsers within that company and look at what you can control. I'll jump into that very shortly in terms of the supported browsers. But if it's an externally facing site, then we obviously, as a company, we have to test it on Google Chrome, Firefox, and IE. So looking at market share, looking at what browsers you want to implement if you're working on a public-facing site. These are the resolutions. You have to work for different resolutions, obviously. Not everybody runs at the resolution I'm running at, which is 1900 by 1200. For a lot of people, that's just ants on a screen crawling around. So you have to make sure you test in all the different screen resolutions. And of course, that browser war, in terms of what browsers should we be emphasizing. IE is catching up, even though the last couple of years they haven't really kind of